Another real quick video, guys, about sine curve and cos curve. So real quick, what a sine curve looks like and a cos curve looks like. So we'll start off here. Sine of 0. So back to what are we talking about here? Sine is going to be, sine is opposite of hypotenuse. We also said that it's the y value over r, over r, or yeah, that's right, y value over r. So what happens is, I'm going to ask you, what happens is you take a unit measurement here of 1, and we're going to move it up and down, or we're going to rotate it, and we're going to check the sine value when it's at a certain angle by drawing a triangle straight down from here and figuring out what the y value is divided by r. Now, if r is 1, each of these is going to be a length of 1, then y over r, or o over h in this case, just becomes y over 1, or just straight plain old y. Okay, so what's the y value here? So if I have something like 10 degrees, I have something that's kind of small. And as this gets bigger, 20 degrees, 30 degrees, 40 degrees, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, all the way to 90, and it gets the value of 1. So it slowly gets bigger like this. And when you sketch it, if I can find it here, when you sketch it, it starts at 0, and we get all the way up to 90, and it gets the value of 1. At this point, it starts to get lower and lower. Oh, that's yesterday's note. At this point here, as we get past 90, so now 100 or something like that, we draw a triangle like this. This line here will be less than 1, okay, because here's your hypotenuse in the triangle. So something like 100 degrees, if my angle is 100 degrees, the triangle that we generate looks like that. If I get to like 140 degrees, it might look something like this, where the unit, the r gets flatter, and this y gets smaller and smaller, all the way to 180 degrees, where it approaches 1 or 0 again. So as we get to 180, it gets down to 0, and then you might, I'll draw this and we'll explain it after. Then at 180 gets 0, then it goes down to -1 here at 270, and back at 360, it is back to 0. So let's see what happens here. I'll just change the color. Once I get past 180, my y value, when I measure this y value here, it is in the negative direction, okay, because you still have your x and y axis. So underneath the x-axis, I have a negative y, and as I approach 270 degrees, which is right here, I approach 1 as my y value. Then as I get closer and closer to 360, and I get moved this way, so 300-ish, 340, and all the way up to just less than 360, this number gets smaller and smaller and approaches nothing once again. Okay, so you have all these triangles, and it's all based on, it also, you can look at Cos law. This helps generate Cos law. In the first quadrant and second quadrant, we have positive values for sine, and then in these two quadrants, we have negative values for sine. Okay, so that's what your sine curve looks like. So that's the green one, so I'll go back to green. That's sine. Theta, if you want to make this theta or x, and here's your y value here. So we put that in there. We have some things to look at. We have a rest position of 0, an amplitude of 1, a period of 360 degrees. Okay, so that's the intro to the sine curve. Cos curve looks the exact same, but it's been shifted. So we talked about that in class also. A cos curve, cos is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. We also said that it's equal to the x over r. Again, we're going to do the same thing here. It's harder to see on this though. And when you raise an angle of theta, you can draw a triangle here, and what we're looking at now is this length here. Okay, so we look at this length here. As this gets, so when we start off at 0 degrees, okay, flat here, the entire the entire arm here is lying down, and all of it is in the x direction. So we start off with having a x value of 1. Okay, so that's up here. And as we approach, as we get bigger and bigger, this little piece here, and again, it's hard to see, this value here, or your x value here, gets smaller and smaller until when you're all the way up, you have no x value whatsoever. Okay, so that is going to be at 90, we get to 0. And then what happens is, as you get bigger than 90, okay, up to 180, this value here, the x value, okay, we're on this side of the y-axis, so my x values are negative, and that continues all the way down to here, all negative. And again, Cos law says cos is negative here and negative here, and then it gets positive here, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So once again, I keep messing that up, but once again, we get smaller, and then we get back to 0, and then we go back up like this. So this is your cos curve. and that's your sine curve. Okay, they're similar. The only difference is this guy here, they both have a period of 360. This guy here, if you turn your head, you want to know which one's which, turn your head to the down, I guess, or to the left. You notice this looks like a C, and that's your sine, and this is a backwards S. And sorry, that's your C looks like is a cos, and your S, or backwards S, is a sine. Okay, so the difference is really a matter of where you're looking from. Okay, and if you notice, or if we kept going, you would have coterminal angles here. So if I went past 90 and I got to, let's say, sorry, past 360 and went another 90, I get to 450. Well, 450 is going to be right here also because it's a coterminal angle with 90, and that's going to have the same value for sine and for cos. So for sine, I'm going to be back up to 1, and then it'll continue, continue, and continue. So what you notice here is it's just a shift. The cos curve and the sine curve are just shifted versions of each other. Okay, basically this cos curve here, if we fall it into the negative degrees, negative 90, if I take this and shove it over 90 degrees, it would be the same as the green guy here. Okay, so there are periods, both the periods are 360, and they differ by a quarter of their period, which is 90 degrees. I think that's it. The rest of 0, max of 1, amp of 1, min of -1, and there's a cycle and the period of 360, which I've said a bunch of times. That's it. Next unit or next video, we're going to move these. Okay, we're going to well, we won't do this AKDC yet, but we will do that soon, and we'll move them, we'll shift them, we'll do a bunch of things. See ya.